Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money and the power, never be fake. Stick to code, sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same empire back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. BBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr Boyce TV.
Good morning. I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, the Black Business School. And I want to welcome you guys to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent black people. So if you're not black and intelligent, you probably want to get out of here because this is not a good place for you. This place will only confuse you. It will only hurt your feelings. It'll only make you mad. We are thoughtful. We think things through. We are open-minded. And we also put black first. If you believe in putting black people first, then type B1 in the chat. B1 is our slogan, our anthem. We put black people ahead of everything and everybody else because nobody else does. I don't believe black people have any friends. I don't believe black people have any true allies out here that are really looking out for the black community. And I think that the black community has to look out for itself. So type B1 in the chat if you agree with that sentiment, if you understand where I'm coming from. I want to say hello to everybody on Instagram. My Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. And if you follow my Instagram is The Real Boyce Watkins. If you follow my Instagram, you'll see that last night, so I'm sitting there in bed with Alicia. And I'm telling you, it's great to be able to lay in the bed every night with the most beautiful black woman in the world. In case you're wondering what gets me excited every day is having that amazing black woman next to me. And she's a smart black woman. She's a social worker and a social work professor. So you got to give props to that. And so laying in bed with this drop dead gorgeous black social worker who is very much in tune with a lot of the struggle in the streets. She worked she worked in Cook County Hospital in Chicago, which if you ever been to Cook County Hospital, you'll know what Cook County Hospital looks like. It's a pretty tough place. But we're watching this documentary about this group called ACORN. And ACORN, I want to ask you guys, I want to do a quick survey. How many of you have heard of ACORN? How many of you, give me a yes or no in the chat if you have heard of ACORN. ACORN is a political organization that would do things like, do wonderful things to help the poor, help people keep their homes from getting foreclosed on. Tens of thousands of people, when they were getting their houses foreclosed on in 07, 08, went to ACORN. And ACORN helped them to avoid foreclosure on their homes. They registered hundreds of thousands of people to vote. And you know how I feel about the voter registration drives and how the Democrats will fight for your right to vote all day. It's not because I don't believe voting can ever be a good thing. It just means that I don't think that their motives are genuine. I don't think they really push for voter rights harder than every other type of right for black people because they really care about black people. I think they push for voter rights more than anything else because they care about themselves. They know that the black vote is what keeps them in power. The black vote is what will get them elected. The black vote will allow them to control the White House and the Senate and Congress and all of that, and the House of Representatives. And so that's why they push for voter rights more than anything else. You go talk to a politician right now about voter rights, and he'll talk to you for an hour. Go talk to a Democratic Party politician about reparations. He'll talk to your ass for about 2 minutes. He won't even give you 2 minutes. Joe Biden act like he didn't even hear the question. He goes senile, like, what you say? Well, I just think that all Americans deserve, right? But you talk about voter rights. Oh, they got a whole spiel for that. They got a 2-hour speech on why voter rights are important. Y'all need to process that, man. Seriously, I mean, this is a hard conversation for some people to absorb because so many people have been brainwashed into whatever white people tell you is the way to do things. And I can just tell you, as a person who's thought about this for 20-something years, I can tell you that that this is a game. It's a ridiculous game. Who do I vote for? In the last election, I didn't vote for anybody. I told them, if you want my vote, you got to give me something called respect. If you respect me and you show me that my issues matter, then you might get my vote. But if you act like I don't matter, then guess what? On election day, you don't matter to me. That's called equality. That's what real equality looks like, black. In case you don't know, black people, y'all don't know equality. Y'all don't really know what it means to get respect, right? You've been trained to seek acceptance. You've been trained to seek acceptance. That ain't the same as respect. Dogs are accepted into the household. I mean, a dog is accepted. They're appreciated as a member of the family, but they're not seen as a human being. So let me just break this down for you. I'm gonna lay this argument out for you in the next few minutes about the ACORN and this documentary, and why this documentary led to an epiphany in terms of how the Democrats put Trump into office. I'm going to explain to you how the Democratic Party is responsible for the Trump presidency. They were Trump's number one beneficiary. They were Trump's number one campaign donor. They created whatever you think about the Trump presidency right now. I mean, the man's not presidential. He's not. Biden's a joke, but Trump is a bigger joke. And there's no question about that. But how did that happen? You see, because they give you this lie. They give you this lie that says, well, the reason Trump's in office is because black men didn't vote. Or the reason Trump's in office is because African Americans don't step to the plate. That ain't no different from a man who beats the hell out of his wife, and then when she walks out on his dumb ass, he's like, well, the reason the kids ain't dressed for school today is because you abandoned the family. Well, if you quit beating your wife, you jackass, she wouldn't have had to leave the household for her own safety. So maybe for the Democratic Party, if you treated black people with more respect, you wouldn't have had black people walk out on your ass. Black folks, I'm not saying all black people feel this way. There's some black people who, I guess out of fear is a great motivator for voting, because they fear a Trump presidency. They're going to show up to the polls. And that's okay, because they fear, coronavirus and the racial disparities and the virus that only kills 1 in every 25,000 people. They're going to show up to the polls. Maybe because they feel that they've been convinced that their ancestors died for them to become Democrats. Then they'll show up and vote. I'm not here to make fun of you for that. I'm not here to tell you that you're not welcome if that's how you think. All I ask for you to do is open your mind and hear what I have to say. Just listen to what I have to say. Can we at least agree? Will you at least lend me your ear? My fellow Americans, will you lend me your ears? Raise your hand. Say yes if you are willing to at least hear what I have to say. You ain't got to agree, but give me a yes that you're willing to listen to my argument as I explain to you how the Democrats are the reason that Donald Trump is president right now. Can you give me your ears? Can you give me a yes in the chat? So I need verbal confirmation to know that it's okay for me to at least express an idea that may be a little different from what you're hearing in mainstream media. Okay, thank you, George, and Chef Bougie? That's funny. Dwayne Limore and Daryl and Kay and everybody else. I want to say thank you guys for letting me do that. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up button. Okay, so let's go back. So this documentary is on PBS. I recommend everyone watch it. It's called ACORN and the Firestorm. ACORN and the Firestorm. And if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it, because, and I know PBS, I got an issue with PBS because of what happened with Tavis Smiley and all that. And I think it's a PBS. Maybe it's somebody else. I don't remember who the hell made it, but it was good. It looked like a PBS type thing. And Alicia watches that stuff. She's a social worker. So I'm learning social work through my wife, who's going to be my wife. So we're watching this documentary about ACORN called ACORN and the Firestorm. Now, ACORN was a hell of an organization. And they still, I think they still exist, but they're not what they used to be. ACORN was amazing for a couple reasons. One, they were unique because they really had black involvement on a significant level. Lots of black people were involved in ACORN. And I thought that was really interesting. Now, a lot of that activism, unfortunately, is rooted deeply into a socialist, communist kind of ideology, which is a little bit different from myself. I'm not a socialist communist, but I'm not a hardcore capitalist. And I think that one of the reasons that a lot of black movements, civil rights movements, activist movements have failed is because we did not have a branch to give us an economic base. Even white liberals have an economic base. They got billionaires they can go to for funding. They got corporations that have their back, right? They have universities, multi-billion-dollar universities with multi-billion-dollar endowments that will support their agenda. Everybody that operates in America pretty much has an economic base. And the Republicans got their base, right? The Koch brothers were worth $100 billion or whatever, and they were funding the conservative movements, right? So black people our movements have never had an economic base, which is, I believe, part of the reason that many of our movements have failed. And I'm going to break that down a little bit more for you in a second. But let me tell you more about ACORN so you can establish the context here. ACORN was so impactful that they are the reason Obama got elected. They are, or at least a big part of the reason. How about this? They are a big chunk of the reason that Obama got elected. If you look at the election statistics, you'll find that when guys like Trump win or whoever wins, they in the battleground states, Ohio and stuff like that, they tend to win by very small margins, a few thousand votes in these states. That makes all the difference. ACORN went out and registered hundreds of thousands of voters. And they're going to vote Democrat because they aim for, those who are in the struggle. They aim for the poor. They aim for the disenfranchised. They aim for black folks. So they literally blew. If you'll watch this documentary, it's called ACORN and the Firestorm. They'll show you a chart that compares the NAACP and some of these other organizations and their voter registration drives. And it's like you see all these groups, you see NAACP and whatever the other groups were, and then you see ACORN's is like, unbelievable. In fact, ACORN was so effective in getting Obama elected that the Fox News pundits were basically trying to clown Obama by saying he was elected by ACORN. ACORN, he got into the White House on the back of ACORN, right? So that was something that they talked about on a regular basis because it pissed them off so much that ACORN got Obama into the White House. So Obama owed his presidency to ACORN the same way Donald Trump owes his presidency to hillbilly white boys, right? Or toothless rednecks in Appalachia, Kentucky, who have their guns and their religion, right? Like, so basically ACORN really had Obama's back in a significant way. And so after this happened, here's what occurred. Okay, so ACORN's is doing their thing. Fox News and the conservatives are basically saying, we got to get these suckers out of here. We got to dismantle ACORN. ACORN must die in order for us to have a chance to win the next election. So what they do is they basically move forward with this, what can best be called the pimp scandal. So they got these two white kids, a white boy and a white girl. They came into the ACORN office and claimed to pretend to be a pimp and a prostitute. And they claimed, they had this hidden camera video, and it was heavily edited to the point where they edited out the most important parts of the video. And they basically gave the impression that they'd gone in to these offices and were being told how to defraud the government, how to get government benefits as a pimp and a prostitute, how to traffic underage girls into the country, how to, how to make money as a pimp and a hoe, just all this crazy stuff where you were just like, what the fuck, what the hell, who would agree to that, right? It looked really, really bad. And so they take this footage and they go to Fox News with it. And Fox News is covering it around the clock. This secret hidden ACORN camera footage and blah, 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 blah. And it just makes them look terrible. And then the mainstream media starts jumping on board. Now, mind you, by this time, the ACORN organization had something that is incredibly detrimental in the public eye. And that would be a black executive director. They have black leadership, which was incredibly detrimental in the public eye. The poor lady's name, God bless her soul, her name was Bertha Lewis. Bertha Lewis became the executive director of ACORN. They got rid of whatever, white liberal white man, some white guy probably had a ponytail or some shit. Those ex-hippies that really think that they're allies to black people. And he was gone. And Bertha Lewis takes over ACORN. Strong leader, intelligent woman, deeply committed, damn good at what she does. I mean, pretty much like, a large percentage of the black women I mean, who's more on point in America than the black woman when it comes to, like, handling stuff like that? Like, black women are just, like, you really are the shit. Like, if you look at the data, I'm not just saying that to be nice. I'm saying it because it's true. Black women just are on top of their game. And so Bertha Lewis takes over ACORN. So here you have this organization that has a black face now, that is literally shifting elections. Shifting elections in a way that Martin Luther King never got a chance to. Martin Luther King was about to do what ACORN did, but they killed his ass before it could happen. They made sure he was dead before he could do that. They did what Dr. King could not do. And so they were literally shifting elections because of ACORN, in my opinion, largely because of ACORN. The Democrats controlled the executive branch. They controlled the House of Representatives. They controlled the Senate. So the Democrats had a majority. They had every single branch of government on lockdown. I mean, you're sitting there thinking, right? You went out and did all you could to get this black guy in office. He's got all the branches of government on his side, and you still can't get shit done for black people? I mean, I'm not telling y'all not to make excuses for Obama. I know some of y'all will make an excuse for him no matter what. He could murder 8 people on the street and you would love him. That's where the hillbillies are for Trump. Trump said that. He said, I could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and people would still love me. Well, Obama's the same way for a lot of black folks. Obama could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and they're gonna say, well, he must have had it coming. He must have. So some folks need a killing. They need to get killed. So Obama is in office. ACORN got him there. They control both branches or all the branches of government. You would think that with all that power, that they would at least investigate to find out if the allegations against ACORN were authentic, right? You would think that they would at least take the time to not racially profile ACORN, to not just believe Fox News, to not just believe media innuendo, but to actually look into it. You know, because Fox News is a motherfucker. Y'all know this. Around that same time that they did that to ACORN, if you go back to around 2007, 2008, they did the same thing to me when I was at Syracuse. Bill O'Reilly, my sister called me. My sister said, Coco, they are talking about, Coco's my nickname. That's what they still call me Coco. Now they call me Dr. Coco. So she said, Coco, they are talking about you like a dog on Fox News. And I was like, really? Wow. So imagine this. Imagine, you know, the most highly rated show in America, like because Fox has like so many more viewers than CNN. Imagine the most highly rated show in America, news show, and for an hour they're talking about what a terrible person you are. Like they have these amazing tricks that they use with Fox. Like they'll even do little things like distort your face to make you look uglier so that their audience will see you as being scary. They took my image, they also darkened it, kind of the way Time Magazine darkened O.J. Simpson's image when they put him on the cover to make him look more like a murderer, right? So they darkened my image. They didn't interview me or anything like that, because that's what you would do if you were a fair journalist. Fox is not fair. We know this, right? So what they did was they had video of me wearing black and talking and looking mean and blah, 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 with no audio. There's no audio, right? So because you don't want, it's like similar like the Farrakhan thing. Not that I compare myself to the minister, far smarter man than I am. But with Farrakhan, it's better to demonize Farrakhan from a distance, because if you try to demonize him up close by maybe interviewing him or letting him talk, then you become worried that his intelligence is going to seep through and that people are going to listen to him and say, damn, he actually has a point. So what you do is you just demonize, Farrakhan from a distance. You dehumanize him. That's what white folks have done, for 30, 40 years. Well, they did the same thing with me, right? They demonized me from a distance. They didn't ask me what I was thinking or whatever. They just basically had this image of a black man, angry black man talking. They distorted my face, and they pretty much made people say, oh, this guy, is a piece of shit, right? So that's Fox's MO. That's just what they do, right? Well, they did the same thing to ACORN around that same time. And so they basically demonize ACORN. It spills into the mainstream media. Once it gets into the mainstream media, now you got NBC and CNN also joining in on the demonization. Now, you would think that with all the power the Democrats had in office, with all the times they tell you that they have your back, with all the situations where they claim to really, ride for black folks, that they would at least take the time to say, damn, is this really true? Let's go find out what's going on. Well, they didn't do that. Without doing any of that, they racially profiled ACORN. I believe it. I consider it racial profiling because the organization had a black face. Remember, if they had a white boy, I believe if they'd had a white boy running that organization, I don't think it would have happened. I think if it had been some ponytailed white boy, with a white lawyer next to him, I think they would have been like, well, there has to be some explanation for this, right? With a black woman running things, it's like, oh yeah, they criminals, they dirty, we know how they do, right? So without even investigating, both houses of Congress, Democrat run now. You can't put this on the Republicans. They actually basically defunded ACORN. I got to look up the bill. I could have sworn it's called the ACORN something bill. Or I don't remember but whatever that bill was that defunded ACORN, like took away all their government funding. Then Obama signs the fucking thing. Obama, the man that they got into office, the man that they love, signs the bill to defund ACORN. And then once they're defunded, they became toxic. When they became toxic, all their funding disappeared. Nobody wants to be attached to a toxic Negro. Nobody wants to be attached to a Negro in general, most of the time. But once you get labeled as toxic or you get labeled as the bad Negro, everybody gonna cut you off. Believe me, take it from a bad Negro. I don't know if anybody else is the bad Negro in the room. If you are the bad Negro, shout yourself out right now as a source of pride, because you're part of the group of people that's moving this country forward, in my opinion. So any other bad Negroes in the room, raise your hand. Take pride in that. It's okay to be radical, because this whole country is very fucked up. And if you fit in with this, if they love you and they're rewarding you and they're giving you lots of money because they love you so much, then you need to check yourself and look in the mirror, because that means there's probably something wrong with you. It's like if an evil criminal rapist thinks that you're the greatest guy in the world, chances are you need to check yourself, because you might be wrecking yourself. So let's keep going. So they have this black executive director, ACORN. They got Obama into office. This pimp scandal happens. Both houses of Congress immediately vote to defund ACORN. Obama signs the bill. Later on, it is revealed later on through various lawsuits and investigations that ACORN did nothing wrong. That the footage was doctored. It was not just illegally taken. That's one thing. It's one thing if somebody illegally records you doing some illegal shit. In that case, I have a hard time feeling sorry for you, because you shouldn't have been doing that shit in the first. Like, you know, Marion Barry got caught smoking the crack. He was a good politician, by the way, but he did smoke crack, right? He's like, you illegally filmed me. Yeah, but maybe if you hadn't been smoking the crack. Or Andrew Gillum got caught in the bedroom with his boyfriend or whatever the guy was, with the butt plugs and pills and what, like that whole chaos. Like, yeah, it might have been, maybe there wasn't a butt plug there, but I don't care. I don't want to think about it. Not on a Thursday morning. But still, even if it was illegally taken, it's still kind of like, yeah, but you gave them an opportunity to record you doing illegal stuff, right? Or doing ridiculous stuff. ACORN wasn't doing anything wrong. To the best of my knowledge, ACORN, like literally, they actually they studied all the footage. And when they studied all the footage, they found that these people were setting ACORN up and making it appear that they were condoning prostitution. They, like one guy, instead of telling, they gave the appearance that he had been told that this guy was trying to really, sneak underage girls into the country, when actually the premise was, they said, look, these girls are I think it was the girls and the lady that was there, they're with this guy, he's a terrible person, he's harming them, they're trying to escape the pimp. So we need your help in getting them away from a bad situation. So he was helping them get away from a bad situation. He wasn't helping them get into a bad situation. And a lawsuit proved that. In fact, and they won the lawsuit, and the guy won a bunch of money, and then the state of California did a thorough investigation of ACORN and concluded that they did nothing wrong. They did nothing. There was no illegal activity from ACORN. So you would think, here's my point. You would think that given that ACORN did so much to put Obama into office and to put the Democrats in power by pressuring black people to vote, that you would think that they would go back and be like, my bad, let us get your money back. Let us take care of you, because, we messed up. We apologize. It's kind of like when Biden stood with Bill Clinton to incarcerate more black men than any president in American history, right? He destroyed more black families than Hitler destroyed during the Nazi Holocaust in Germany. You would think that they would go back and fix what they did wrong. You think that they fixed that. Nope. They didn't go back at all. They didn't fix anything. So here's what happens. So ACORN is defunded. ACORN's gone. ACORN's not a player anymore. The documentary is called ACORN and the Firestorm. Just Google it. I think it's PBS or something, but you can Google it and you can just say, where can I watch ACORN and the Firestorm? You need to watch this. It's a very good documentary. And but they didn't go back. So ACORN is gone. And then guess what happens in 2016? You get President Trump. And it wasn't like he won by landslide. President Trump won by probably a fraction of the number of votes that ACORN could have gotten for the Democratic Party were they still functional. So that is my argument. My argument is that it is the Democratic Party's racism by not standing by this black woman, Bertha Lewis, who was running an organization with a black face. It was the Democratic Party's weakness in standing up for the people that have their back. Or even worse, their malicious desire to use black people but not stand with black people that led to President Trump being in office. Keep going down the list. Let me talk a little bit more about that. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button, hit the subscribe button. And speaking of an economic base, you guys know my biggest campaign is I'm trying to get you guys to invest in your first share of stock. I want you guys to be stock owners. So if you want to learn how to invest in your first share of stock, there is a free training on how to buy your first share of stock. Go to firstshareofstock.com. That's firstshareofstock.com. Also, don't forget Black Movie Night is going to be on the 23rd. We're taking over the movie industry. We want to make black films and support black filmmakers. So if you'd like to join us for Black Movie Night, go to blackmovienight.net. That's blackmovienight.net. Last time, thousands of you registered. We had a great time. We're going to do it again. We're going to watch a really great movie called The Melanin Code by Marcus Small. Marcus Small is a good brother, and it's a great film. You should definitely check it out. So if you like things like Hidden Colors and stuff like that, The Melanin Code is in that genre. So go to blackmovienight.net and register, or firstsharestock.com if you'd like to buy your first share of stock. So hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button right now. So here's the point. Okay, so ACORN gets Obama into office by registering hundreds of thousands of people to vote. Once Obama's in office, the Democrats now control all branches of government, the House, the Senate, and the executive branch, and the White House. ACORN gets falsely accused in this fraudulent scandal that takes ACORN down. Rather than standing with ACORN, or at least investigating to find out what really happened, white folks get nervous. The Democrats immediately vote to defund ACORN and distance themselves from them, which showed that they were willing to use these black folks to get into power, but weren't willing to stand with them when times got tough. Like that New Edition song, Sunny Days, everybody loves them. But tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? Remember that, right? So the question, in any relationship, whether you're talking about love or politics, the question is not, what do you do when the sun is shining? But tell me, baby, can you stand the rain? Can you stand with me when nobody else is standing with me? Are you going to have my back when I'm on my back? And the reality is that these folks in this, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to tell you not to support the Democrats. I know we get to that stupid argument. Well, what are we supposed to do? Go vote Republican? Hilk. Well, no, my argument is that you always have a choice, and I have a choice. I'm not being tossed back and forth between the Democrat and Republican Party like a $2 hoe. I'm not doing that. I'm not voting for anybody that does not earn my vote. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just telling you what happened here. Because I felt compelled to do a podcast about this because I think this story needs to be told. Because ACORN was a heroic organization. They did wonderful things for the poor. They did wonderful things for black folks. They did things for the hood that nobody else was doing. And it's crazy to me that the Democrats and Obama, your black president, bailed out on their ass right when they needed them, even when they did nothing wrong. And you know what? ACORN was such a strong organization. I'm going to tell you the truth. Even if ACORN had done something wrong, I'd have still stood by them. I'd have been like, let's fire all the people who did the illegal shit. Let's review your procedures. Let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We're going to just clean ACORN up and we're going to make them better. That's what I would do. Because think about this. Look at how many times white folks still stood by like the Teamsters. The Teamsters were having motherfuckers murdered. Like they were having people like coming up missing, sleeping with the fishes, and they always stood by the Teamsters and the unions and all that, even when they really did illegal stuff, right? So I'm gonna just tell you the truth. To me, being on code would mean like, look, ACORN took care of us, we're gonna take care of you. I don't know if anybody has anybody like that you care about enough where you're that loyal. I have friends that have been so loyal to me, and I'm not going to name too many of them, but I got a couple friends like that, and my woman is one of them, where I swear to God, if my woman came home and says, baby, I got pissed at a lady at the grocery store, and I shot her, and her body's in the trunk, I would be like, okay, where are we going to bury the body, and how are we going to get rid of the evidence? Like, seriously, or when are we going to Mexico together? Which third world country does not have extradition so that we can get away and make sure that you're good? I would stand by her. I'm telling you. So my belief is that, and when you talk about coalitions, when you talk about, really people standing with you, I really think that the best friends are the people that will stand with you even when you make a mistake. So even if ACORN had made a mistake, because they were a big organization, they were growing very, very fast. Bertha Lewis couldn't keep up with what every person was doing in her organization. There were thousands of people. See, how are you going to keep up with thousands of people? That's hard to do. I'm a CEO myself. Sometimes people are doing stuff, on your behalf that you don't even know what's going on. And my organization ain't nearly as big as ACORN. I probably pay about 15, 20 people a month. And even with that, stuff will happen and you'll be like, what? They were not doing, did he really say that? Oh, get him out of here, right? So imagine having thousands of people under your umbrella and you're being held accountable on a large national scale for, something somebody did in Iowa and you never met that person. That's unfair. That's a horrible standard. So moving forward with that, here's the deal. So because the Democrats did not stand with ACORN, and because ACORN was so effective at voter registration, they were really doing the work. They were taking the money and really applying it to getting things done, helping people not get evicted from their homes, helping people, get to the polls and everything else. Because they were so effective, they could have got Hillary Clinton into office. I have no doubt in my mind that if ACORN was still functional, she would have gotten elected. So as a result, Trump gets elected, which to me says that because of your racism, because of the racism of the Democratic Party and their inability to stand with this black organization that had been so loyal. I wouldn't have been that loyal. I ain't never been that loyal to the Democrats. I'm not going to go stand on every street corner trying to get people to register to vote. I'll stand on street corners to get black folks to build wealth for their family, or to build an economic base, or to get an education so that you can actually stand up against racism. But I'm not gonna dedicate my life to voter registration because I just don't believe that it's that effective based on the data. I have not seen any example where electing the Democrats has ever led to significant improvements in the black community when it comes to education quality, economic quality, or safety in our streets, significantly lower incarceration rates, or family strength. I just see nothing but more chaos coming out of that. So with that said, though, another point that you have to make is that not only did the Democrats get Trump put into office because they dismantled ACORN and didn't stand with them and didn't reverse their horrible decision, but also black folks have to pay attention to this. You should learn from the mistakes of people that came before you. I think you should learn, because here's what's going on with ACORN. This is why they're different from me. I'm not real down with white liberals like that. Malcolm X talked about that. Malcolm X talked extensively 50 years ago, 60 years ago, about how black people are super loyal to the Democratic Party and don't get anything in return. He talked about this. When I saw ACORN, here's what I saw in the mind of a finance professor. I saw an organization that trusted white folks in government far more than I ever will. If you're white, I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings, but I'm sorry. Y'all haven't earned my trust as a collective. You just haven't. You just haven't. And so they have these white folks that they're supposed allies, right? And then on top of that, you've got this government funding that's supporting you, and you've got the corporate sponsorship coming from donations and things like that. Why do you think that the Black Business School has gone out of its way to consistently reiterate to you that we don't take government funding and we don't take corporate sponsorship? Why do you think I, as a person who understands how money works and the power of money very well, have always consistently said to you, we do not take government funding, we do not take corporate sponsorship? I say that because I see the flaws in depending on something that is not going to provide a stable foundation for whatever your agenda happens to be. Everybody's got an agenda. Our agenda happens to be the black agenda. Hollywood's agenda is the gay agenda. The Democratic Party, their agenda is the Democratic Party agenda, whatever that happens to be at that time, right? Everybody's got an agenda. So the black agenda is not an agenda that is going to be fully and relentlessly pursued. Thank you. I like that word, relentless. It's not going to be relentlessly pursued in the context in which the Democratic Party is providing the foundational support for that, because they don't really have an incentive to create truly empowered black people or a truly empowered black community. They have no incentive to do that. So what needs to happen is, when you're talking about your activism, and this is for everybody in the room, even if you're not a wealth builder, even if you're not into the stuff that I'm into, owning businesses and owning assets and all that, you really want to think about the fact that a lot of black activism has not worked if it has a liberal base, because it didn't have an economic base to keep it going when the times got tough. The Black Panthers, I've always said that the Black Panthers had a great free lunch program, and I think that's great, but Dr. Boyce wouldn't have had the free lunch program. Dr. Boyce would have had the 10-cent lunch program. And in the 10-cent lunch program, here's what the rules would be. The rules would be, everybody pays 10 cents for their lunch, so that we can fund this organization without begging white people for money, without depending on corporate sponsorship or whatever it is, wherever our funding source is. The Black Panthers are out here defending your community. They're out here giving you freedom. Freedom ain't free. So everybody who wants to eat lunch here is going to have to pay a dime. Now, because we have a heart, because we do care, if you don't have a dime, then you can eat for free. The people who pay their dime can subsidize the people who can't pay their dime. But I'll be damned if you gonna come up in here and get free lunch from us, and I saw your ass down at the white man's liquor store giving money to him. I'll be damned if you're gonna support white businesses every day of the week, but you can't support black businesses and black activists who are right here in your community helping you out and supporting you and having your back. Seriously, I don't do that. And that's what that's our rule in the Black Business School. A lot of our students get a lot of value for absolutely nothing. But when people say, well, if you really care about the black community, you would do everything for free. I know where that's coming from. The root of that is the communist socialist interaction with black civil rights. They were the ones who originally supported you, so they put that bullshit in your head that a black person can't care about the black community without being broke. That being in poverty is a requirement to somehow care about the black community, when we know that you can't help poor people if you stay in poor yourself. I'm not going to say you can't. It's very difficult. How about this? It's very difficult for me to fight the white man and then beg him for a job at the same time. It's very difficult for me to fight racism, but then have to go work for a racist corporation on Monday morning. It doesn't work that way. So what I say to people is, I say, look, if you are really having a hard time, then we can help you out. We have free stuff. So here's the agreement I make with you. We'll give you every single thing that we have for free on one condition. You must show me that you have not put one nickel into white businesses this week. If you haven't put any money into white businesses, then you ain't got to put money into the black businesses. But if you've been spending money with white folks, giving them a license to operate in your community, but you are banning black businesses from operation, claiming somehow that they must be corrupt because they're not giving you everything for free, then you might as well be a Klansman, because you're destroying your community. And we don't roll with black Klansmen. We don't roll with black folks who want to destroy the black community. So if you are a black Klansman, then you got to go, because we got a lot of black Klansmen in the community that want to destroy black business. Your activism needs an economic foundation. If ACORNs had an independent economic base that went beyond government funding and corporate sponsorship, ACORN could have gave them the middle finger and said, we're going to keep doing what we do. We're going to keep it moving because we got money in the bank. We got money we got gas in the tank and money in the bank, and ain't nothing going to stop this show. But because you could become so trusting in these damn white liberals who will throw your ass under the bus in a second, you end up shit's creek when they decide not to back you no more. So what I'm saying to black folks is, I'm really pushing a new paradigm here. I'm not saying I'm the first. Marcus Garvey talked about it. Malcolm talked about it. But y'all don't know about that because white folks don't teach you about Marcus and Malcolm in school. They teach you about the soft pussy ass agenda of other people who somehow believe that acceptance and integration was more important than independence and strength. So I'm not saying that you never integrate. Integration is perfectly fine at some point. Integration is a natural part of an economic system. At some point, you want to be integrated into the global economy. But if you integrate without a base, then you will simply become a watered down version of who you were meant to be. Everybody must have a base, because having a base gives you something that has eluded you as black people for 400 years. Having a base gives you freedom. Let me give you an example. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. There was a time when my daughter was working at Office Depot or something, or Staples. I don't remember. They're all the same to me. And she was telling me about her job, and she was telling me about how racist they were on her job, and she was doing what a lot of black folks do. If you ever want to have a 3-hour conversation with a black person, just say something like, let me tell you about these white people on my job, and over a glass of wine or beer or whatever, and they'll talk to you all night. Like, that conversation will go all night. Like, the whole complaining about what white people did to us today, like, that conversation is a long-held tradition in the black community. So she was telling me about the racist white people on her job, and how bad they were treating her, and how mean they were, and all the microaggression that kills black people. I mean, you talking about you worried about going down from coronavirus. So the reason black people are dying from the virus is because we have pre-existing conditions. We get a lot of our pre-existing conditions from the stress of dealing with the microaggressions of racism every day on the job. So really, a lot of black folks, if black folks stopped working for white people, our health levels would probably go up by 40% within a couple of years. Like, seriously, if you ever want to know what happiness feels like, quit your job. Like, that's the best. That's an amazing. I don't know if anybody's gone through that experience. Raise your hand if you have, because that's true. So she was telling me about how bad they were treating her and how mean they were and everything else. So I'm sitting here, I'm listening to this, and I'm giving her strategies like, well, here's how you can deal with them. Here's what you can say. Da, da, da. And then I realized I'm not very good at that. I'm not very good at telling people how to compromise and how to fold. I said, you know what? I said, fuck it. Quit that job and come work for me. Just come work with your dad. You can work with me. We got an economic base over here. We own a business. You can come and work with me. That way, you've eliminated the problem altogether. Let's just go nuclear with this shit. Let's just eliminate the job altogether. Now you have one less thing to complain about. And so what I'm telling you is that if you want to talk about a moment that I felt proud as a father, if you want to talk about a moment where I felt strong, where I felt like the Godfather, man. I was like, yeah, I'm a man. And as a man, I'm not going to let my daughter deal with this kind of abuse on a daily basis. So, whether you choose to take advantage of it or not, my kids have always known that daddy was the base, that there's a base back there. You might go out in the world and play your game, and a lot of my kids don't work. It's hard to work for me. So my kids don't all work with me that much. They've all worked with me for at least a little while, but they always know that the base is there. That base is really important, because the base is where you go when the shit hits the fan. Like Tales from the Hood. Remember we were talking about the shit. The shit. When every black person is going to end up in the shit at some point. Everybody ends up in the shit where you don't have enough money to pay the rent, or you hate your boss and you want to cuss him out, or you've been blackballed from your industry because you were acting a little bit too black on the job, and you end up in the shit. Well, the base is where you go when you end up in the shit. So every black person needs to have a base that they can go to. We don't have a base. We've never had a base. As families, we don't talk about building an economic base within our family. If ACORNs had a base, ACORNs would still be functioning at the same level they were functioning over a decade ago, when they were powerful enough to get the first black president elected. But they had no base. So when the politicians took their money, and then the corporations took their money, they just poof, disappeared. So the key to freedom is learning how to form a base and learning what a base looks like. Now, I'll talk about that more later on. I've already talked enough for today, but I hope you get the point. The documentary is called ACORN and the Firestorm. I encourage everybody to watch it, because it's going to infuriate you if you watch it carefully. It's going to piss you off. And I really think everybody should be aware of this, because this is a textbook case study on why black people need to learn the importance of economic strength and independence. Also, why black activism as a collective needs to be flipped on its head a little bit. Every activist organization needs to have a section of that organization that focuses solely on providing the economic base necessary for that organization to do its work. You can't be an activist for long if you can't even pay your damn employees. You can't be an activist for long if everybody got to go to work on Monday for the same damn corporations you protesting against on the weekend. Seriously, it doesn't even make any sense. It makes you look stupid. It makes you look crazy. It makes you look weak. It makes you look ridiculous. You can't build a strong organization if all you know how to do is beg for donations. There are a million different ways to figure out how to get money and build an economic base. If you want to really understand it, go pay attention to certain things white folks do. Go look at Harvard University. Harvard University is pretty liberal, some conservative, but very liberal. They provide the power base for many people that have gone into the White House, the Supreme Court, all these things, right? So they're involved politically. They're activists in their own specific ways. On the issues that matter to them, like for example, intellectual freedom, things like that, or whatever issues white liberals care about. Do you think Harvard could function without that, $50 billion endowment that they have, or whatever their endowment is? I don't know what is Harvard's endowment. Let me see. What is the Harvard endowment? The Harvard endowment is $40.9 billion. Well, what is that? That's their economic base. That's their fuck you money. That's their true power. Do you really think Harvard would have the power that it has right now if somebody took that $40 billion away from them? Right, so black folks, what I'm saying to you is that you don't have a base a lot of times. A lot of times your base is whatever white person is backing you up. And the problem that you have is that because this racism is deeply entrenched in the subconscious minds of many of the people that you depend upon, this is a 400-year process now. Because of that racism, they will use you as long as they can use you, right? They loved ACORN when ACORN was getting them into power, but they will abandon you the minute the shit gets hot. A lot of you have gone through that on your job. I can remember, when I worked at Syracuse University. I was an asset to them when I was an asset, but when I became a liability, they were like, well, let's cut the cord. When Fox News ambushed my president, Fox News came to my campus and they ambushed the president of the university. Now imagine your boss's boss getting, like stopped on her way to work, and they're like, you have a racist on your campus by the name of Boyce Watkins. And she's like, who's Boyce Watkins, right? So they're all looking around, she's like, do you know this guy? Who's this guy? So suddenly, literally, I just got there maybe a few months, a year or two earlier. I don't remember what it was. And suddenly, my name is the most, biggest name on the entire campus. Them white folks were trying to get my black ass out of there quick. They had donors, millionaire donors, calling the school saying, if you keep that son of a bitch on your campus, I'm not donating any money anymore to your school. That kind of pressure. So, shit, I'm like, damn, I would be giving me up if I were them. I would be pushing me out. So I'm sitting there thinking, so here's what's funny, right? So they come to me, right? They try to do a Snoop Dogg on me, right? Where they make Negroes apologize and get on their knees and tickle a white man's balls for forgiveness or whatever it is. But I'm not quite built that way. So I remember they were asking me, they were like, because it was over a comment I made about Bill O'Reilly and Juan Williams, his little black sidekick. I called him the Happy Negro, and I thought that was funny. So anyway, so they were like, so Dr. Watkins, are you going to apologize for what you said? And let me tell you what was really going through my mind. I was thinking, damn, if I don't apologize, I might lose my job. I had been in school. I mean, getting a PhD takes a long time. At least it did for me because I got a real PhD, a really hard one to get. And so imagine that you've worked your whole life to become the 1% of the 1%. The year I got my PhD in finance, I was the only black man anywhere that I know of on earth to get a PhD in finance in 2002. Go back to the year 2002. I've not met anyone else to this day who is African American who got a PhD in finance that year, right? So I worked hard for this, position, and I'm making this good money, and I was sitting there thinking, I said to my brother, I said, so if I lose my job and I get blackballed for life, because once one university fires you, none of them are going to hire you. None of the good ones are going to want to fuck with you, right? And because they would always, because when I would apply for other jobs, they would always be excited. They'd be like, "Oh my God, we found a smart black man. This is amazing. There are no smart black people anywhere." You know how they do. And then they would Google me and see that I was actually really super black. And then suddenly 2 days later, they'd be like, we decided to go in a different direction. We just don't. Well, what do you mean? What are the specifics? Well, we just, we just decided that this isn't a good fit. And it'll be some university literally that has never hired a black person in finance, that has no black people in their entire finance department, who puts on their diversity statement, "We're looking for black people. We'd love to diversify. We'd love to diversify." But the reality of diversity, which is a bullshit concept for most of these organizations, the reality of diversity is we want a black person who's going to fit, right? Who's going to be a good Negro, right? Who's not going to cause any trouble. You ain't going to come up in here acting too black. You're not going to make things uncomfortable for us. So, and I wasn't that guy. And I'm not even saying this in a way to say that I'm angry about it. I have no regrets about it. Seriously. I mean, having my own business was the best move I ever made. But that's what it was. But you get lied to your whole life. And you get led to believe that if you're black and somewhat well-behaved and if you're qualified, then all these amazing opportunities will be available for you. But that's another myth. That's another myth that's built on getting you to overcommit to the integrationist concept, where you believe that your base is the white folks that are paying your bills, when the reality is that that's not really your base. That is a huge economic risk for most black people, because if you don't believe me, then really go start acting super black. Go to your job and say something about the lack of diversity in your department or whatever, why you're the only manager in your company at this level within a 100-mile radius, and watch how quickly your employment evaluations go from stellar to sub-mediocre. Watch how quickly they tell you that they don't need you anymore. Watch how quickly you become toxic in terms of trying to get another job. And so it's not me telling you that we should sit around and complain about white folks. I don't care. I've committed to the idea that white folks are going to continue to be white. What I'm saying is that if white folks are going to continue to be white, I need you to really start acting black. Like, seriously, I need you to start acting black. Like, white folks are going to be white. I need you to commit to being black. Committing to being black to me means that I don't have to be ashamed of who I am. I'm not going to be scared to be the person that I am just because it makes your reality uncomfortable. But because I've made that commitment, I also know that in order for me to survive, in order for me to feed my family, I'm going to have to find an economic base that affords me the rights and the freedoms to even talk like that. Do you think I could talk like this on the internet every day and say what I say without an economic base? Do you think that I could be saying these things if I were working for Universal Studios in Hollywood and they were sponsoring my podcast? Do you think that I could talk like this if I were an employee of CNN? No, I can't. Right? You need an economic base. That's the key to freedom. That's the key to all keys to freedom lead back to economics, because you live in a capitalist society. People who don't understand economic bases that live in a capitalist society are ultimately doomed to fail. They're doomed for slavery. It's either slavery or complete extraction from the system. There's a black man, that means they want you in prison, they want you marginalized, they want you out of the household, they just want you to disappear, or they want you dead. So anyway, I'm done talking. I don't have anything else to say. I thought this point, when I watched that ACORN documentary, I was just watching it and my arms were folded and I was getting mad, and Alicia looked at me and she knows me pretty well. She's like, "Oh, I know this is burning you up. Do you feel like you need to go talk about it now?" I said, "No, I'm going to sleep on it, babe. I need to process this." But literally, when I'm looking at the economics, one thing would have changed the whole outcome in the ACORN situation. When Obama and the Democrats abandoned ACORN could have kept functioning if they'd had a strong independent economic base. If they'd had a section of their organization that was focused solely on managing some sort of endowment, like the same way Harvard University has an endowment, maybe a collection of assets that they own, like the Jewish community. They can say, we own some real estate, we own some stocks, we own some businesses, then they could have won. The problem is that they teach you, this is a false belief that you're being taught in school. They teach you that getting all caught up in just the social issues, or how white people treat you, or whether or not, you know, a white lady clenches her purse when you get on the elevator, that should dominate all your thinking. So when I'm hearing all these activists talking, they're all talking about voting. They're all talking about people, you know, about people being treated better, but they weren't really talking about the economic base. Somebody needs to be talking about the damn money, because somebody got to pay the damn bills. And if your bills are being paid by your oppressor, then there is absolutely no way on this earth you could ever convince me that you're truly free. Your allies are only as good as they last. So basically right now, you're standing on a foundation that is about 2 inches thick. The minute that sucker cracks, your ass is gonna fall into the ocean, and you're gonna be drowning, and you're gonna be crying and screaming about how hard it is when you're underwater. And I'm gonna be looking and saying, yeah, I thought that was gonna happen because you weren't protected in the first place. So anyway, I'm done. I'm finished talking. Thank you for listening. It was a lot of fun talking to you guys. Do me a favor, if you haven't learned to buy your first share of stock, I'd really like to create a generation of black investors. That's going to make a difference. That's going to give you a couple of $1 trillion by the next generation in your community. Your family will benefit dramatically if you do what I say. So feel free to go to firstshareofstock.com. The training is free. I do make a little offer to join my mini class, but you don't have to do it if you don't want to. It's totally fine. It's an offer. An offer means you don't have to do it. But if you want to do it, it's a great program. But if you don't want to do it, that's okay. So there's an offer there, but you can get the training for free at firstshareofstock.com. When you get done, you will know how to invest. And what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start saying, okay, how many of you are buying shares of stock for your family? And I really want 90+% of all the people that are watching my channel to say yes. And the only people I want saying no are the new people, so we can get them up to speed and up to game on what it means to build an economic base. Can we agree on that? Give me a yes in the chat if we can agree and make a verbal commitment right now to follow through and do something that's going to involve building wealth for our families. Give me a yes in the chat so that we know that we didn't just sit here and run our mouths for nothing. Give me a yes. Give me a yes. Okay, thank you. I see some yeses. I appreciate it. I'm out of here, guys. Have a good day. The website is firstshareofstock.com. That's firstshareofstock.com. Have a good day, and I will see you soon. Take care. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money and the power, never be fake. Stick to code, sign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same empire back your home. Got 3 degrees, 1010. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr Boyce TV.